boarding school because my dad was the headmaster of the school I went to. And there was only space for one head in the school, and it couldn't be me. It needed to be my dad.
Right, I'm sure.
So I went to boarding school. It was in the 80s. It was a difficult time in South Africa. It was a difficult time with segregation. It was in Pretoria. It was conservative. I don't like fitting in. I don't like rules. I don't like rules that don't make sense.
Okay, I am Madam Khubusang, born Malili in Seroe. I am the youngest of 7 siblings. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm an entrepreneur. Okay. I call myself a creative. I'm also a foodie. I love playing around with food and telling stories through play.
Africa is circled around wine. You know, Africa, we don't even know enough about ourselves. So through these wines, we can know about injere, dombolo, mokodu, jollof rice, and egusi, and eforiro. So we can bring our food out. We can learn more about ourselves. We can share our cultural differences and similarities because we can. I think we haven't profoundly done wine and art or wine and African history.
Lutsandvo lusekhona tinyembeti letesula umphalo wekukhatsateka lawetfula alunamgomo lokufana nemfula lukheleta busuku nemini imini iletha litsemba nebusuku bekukwethena nibucocele letivutsa sigodzi sonke tindzaba letishisako telutsandvo vula ntfombe ngifake tetsembiso ngikufunde ngelikusatsa lelicobetela mine nawe.
Are you happy with the intimacy that we share?
What's your biggest fear?
I just want to thank you for being a loving husband.
And I've said this many times before, but you've got my heart and you always will.
All the best love stories have one thing in common. They go against the craziest odds, and every love story or journey is beautiful. Don't miss these Swazi love stories every Saturday at 5:30 p.m. exclusive to Eswatini TV.
Impela mfana bantfu sengifikile futhi ka ngijike ngaphandle kwale yakho inhlitiyo noma ungaze uthi.
This life, true justice requires sacrifices. End of story, end of corruption.
One of them asked me that what kind of job are they going to do overseas?
When a man dies and leaves behind family and properties,
Kuliqiniso ukuthi umnakethu uMandla akasekho emhlabeni.
Ngifuna ajayive lesiginci sakhe lomba. Ende izavo yakhe siyathokoza.
Gabane. Ndobuta mina kuthi Gabane ekhalami. Awathi kuthi Gamba.
Who's going to take his phone?
Sisi ngithe namhla sekwene.
Lokho nje awungikholwa ashayela uMelginenza umbode. Utakutshela ukuthi le nkampani yasala kimi mina.
Iwini.
Ulandze mina, Thando. Ningeyati indlela yemaphoyiseni. Akudingeki ukuthi ungilandze.
So, now that my father is no more, who will be the owner?
catch this live on Eswatini TV every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. This live, no more to corruption.
lalela ngikutshele indzaba leti buye enkosini. Uyeswana uthokandaba luthango lonke laselibonjeni aliphele lesigodlweni ehlane mhla ka-1 April lite lithwele lobo bugani bakhe mhla ka-2 engomeni luthango mhla ka-3 liyachithwa libutho bonkhosi usho njalo Mswazi lomnyama kulabalithulu kulodungandaba sembelebelweni bayethe wena phakathi bayethe wena phakathi
phezu komkhono njengoba seyimemetele indvuna luthango ngemgcibelo luthango litabe livunule lihiya leli orange bese ngelisondvo liyavunula lihiya lelibovu ningavunule mabalabala luthango umsebenzi wemakhosi utoba mhle nanini bebahle futhi bayethe wena phakathi.
Hey guys, let's take a selfie.
Oh, wait.
Woo!
Get it.
It's a video!
We, the young, are not a complicated bunch. You see, we take each day as a clean slate, a chance to experience more. Why turn down the volume when you can turn up the vibe? It's never about the destination, it's about the journey. And this is so true when it comes to South Africa. This land wants you to live in the here and now.
The coolest.
And not in some hashtag, because a place this timeless doesn't follow trends. It sets them. And her people have a way of making you feel at home. So come touch, taste, and live South Africa. There's so much more to see. Come journey with us.
Ngacishe ngatibambelela kucala kunatse ama-ARVs ngesaba imvuka lesoloko kukhulunywa ngayo sekuphela umnyaka ngawaqala solo siphethene kahle ngikhumbula kahle ukuthi angimelanga ukuthi ngize ngigule noku nomhla solo ngingumcemane ngiyatichenya ngalesinqumo ngitawuqhubeka ngwanathe ngikwethembeka solo ngime kuso sinqumo sami ngigrand ngisukumela impilo yami
kuva kabandi shayela 1212.
Hi-Fi Corp is the home of savings. Get this Defy 195-litre chest freezer with 5-year warranty for $3,499. Save $400. Or this Asus Core i3 1TB laptop with 4 gig memory for $6,999. Save $1,000. Or this Sky.
Good evening, this is Eswatini TV News at 8, read to you by myself, Natile Sitole, alongside Zamanzi Manze. First up, let's have a look at our headlining stories.
The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has eased COVID-19 regulations.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health says Eswatini has the necessary means to prevent new HIV infections. The EU ambassador to Eswatini says there is a need for Eswatini's youth to engage one another for the positive development of the country. And now the news in detail. The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has eased COVID-19 regulations. The Prime Minister, Cleopas Dlamini, made this announcement, or rather says PCR tests will no longer be a requirement for fully vaccinated Maswati who want to travel in and out of the country. The Prime Minister was addressing the nation during a press conference in Babane today.
Following a reduction in the number of COVID-19 cases and fatalities, the government of Eswatini has since eased the COVID-19 restrictions. Announcing the eased restrictions, the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini urged Maswati to vaccinate for life to get back to normal again. He says vaccinated cross-border travelers will no longer require a negative PCR test.
Entry into Eswatini now requires either proof of full vaccination for COVID-19 or a PCR test of not more than 72 hours, but not necessarily both. This does not apply to children under the age of 12. It should be noted, however, that negative PCR tests may still be required when one is traveling to or through other countries other than the neighboring South Africa. The wearing of face masks in open space is no longer mandatory in groups of not more than 5 people. Large outdoor gatherings shall continue observing social distancing of at least 1 meter apart and shall continue to wear face masks. That's large group outdoor gatherings. People with flu-like symptoms should not participate in gatherings, whether indoor or outdoor. Indoor gatherings. COVID-19 preventative measures comprising of sanitizing and 1 meter social distancing are mandatory for all indoor gatherings. Participants in attending indoor gathering events are required to wear their face masks. Inside shopping malls and supermarkets and other shops, face masks will be a requirement. Worship services. Churches may now operate at full capacity, provided indoor COVID-19 measures such as wearing of face masks and social distancing of 1 meter are observed. Funeral services and memorial services.
The vaccines have proven to prevent severe diseases and death for the prevailing variants. Therefore, Maswati must vaccinate. He says it would even be better if we reach at least 50% of our population or 70%, and we will reach a time where we remove even our face masks. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB at the Cabinet Offices in Babane. On another note, the Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has announced that night vigils and gufugama are now permitted, but under strict COVID-19 regulations. The Premier made this announcement at a press conference in Babane.
Funeral and memorial services, the wearing of face masks and adherence to COVID-19 restrictions is a requirement. Night vigils and gufugama and night vigils are now permitted, but must be conducted in strict adherence to COVID-19 restrictions. Sports. All restrictions in respect of sports are lifted for outdoor sporting activities. Spectators in indoor sports will be required to wear a face mask. Entertainment and music and nightclubs, etc. Restrictions for entertainment events are lifted. However, attendants should adhere to relevant indoor and outdoor restrictions such as the wearing of face masks. Alcohol sale. The sale and consumption of alcohol on premises within approved trading hours is now permitted. Indoor COVID-19 restrictions must, however, be observed at all times. As I conclude, may I emphasize the importance of vaccinating against COVID-19. These vaccines have been proven to prevent severe disease and death for prevailing variants. Therefore, gatherings of vaccinated people greatly reduces the negative impact of the disease. Evidence has shown that if 70% of the people in a gathering have vaccinated for COVID-19, the protection rate will be higher. Let us continue to frequently wash hands with soap and running water, or sanitize with a 70% alcohol-based sanitizer. Where you can, opt for an outdoor gathering. We continue to encourage people to wear their face masks. Masks are one of the proven health measures preventing transmission and remain an important element in the prevention of COVID-19. It is particularly important to do so if you have flu-like symptoms. One of the areas that a face mask will be required is, of course, when traveling in a public transport. The wearing of a face mask is mandatory.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Simon Zwane, says Eswatini has the required tools to prevent new HIV infections and AIDS-related deaths. The PS has been speaking during the World AIDS Day commemoration by the United Nations staff on Tuesday. He was represented by SNAP Program Manager Muhle Dlamini.
To show support for people living with HIV and to remember those who have died from AIDS-related illnesses, on Tuesday, the United Nations Eswatini staff commemorated World AIDS Day. Speaking during the commemoration, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Simon Zwane, said the country has the required tools to prevent every new HIV infection and AIDS-related deaths.
It is a call to working together in ensuring that the right of all of us in our individual capacities and without distinction of any kind to have equal access to health services free of any discrimination.
The acting United Nations Eswatini resident coordinator Amina Mohammed said UN will continue to support the Kingdom of Eswatini in the fight against HIV and AIDS.
We only have 8 years remaining to reach that target of eliminating completely. So I'm urging all of us, in whatever we are doing, to look at that last mile.
Nature Executive Director Kanya Mabuza said focusing on the fight against AIDS means sustainability of HIV services.
We find that there are a high number of new infections, primarily driven by the COVID restrictions. Mainly, the major driver was that schools were closed for extended periods, and that resulted in the high number of teenage pregnancies. And by proxy, once you have high number of teenage pregnancies, you must know that there was unprotected access. Apart from the pregnancy, then there are other problems. And confirming so, we found that the number of infections were very high.
UNAIDS reports that since the first cases of AIDS were reported 40 years ago, 36 million people have died from AIDS globally, and 38 million people are living with HIV currently. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkel Suekoza with Fabrice Msonera, Babane.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Bektemba Gama, says for sustainable education, the country requires the involvement of different stakeholders. The PS has been speaking when officially opening the first ASPNet Teachers Conference by UNESCO, which was held at the Southern African Nazarene University. The PS was represented by the Director of Education, Dr. Lenhle Dlamini.
In 1953, UNESCO established the Associated Schools Project Network, ASPNet, to encourage schools worldwide to educate students on issues related to UNESCO's overarching goal of promoting peace and international understanding. On Tuesday, UNESCO Eswatini, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, hosted the first annual ASPNet Teachers Conference. Speaking when officially opening the conference, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Bektemba Gama, who was represented by the Director of Education, Dr. Lenhle Dlamini, said, ASPNet is the key to the country's sustainable education.
As a ministry, we recognize ASPNet as one of the initiatives that assist us see how we manage the ESD pillars. ESD for education is a framework, mainly in curriculum development, where we actually ground all what we teach, we ground it on ESD. All these pillars are very important. Climatic conditions have been touched upon, issues of the environment have been highlighted. That is saying to us, education without planting that seed that will live for a long time and allow the next generations to find it is as good as useless.
UNESCO Eswatini Secretary General Phumzile Hlophe unpacked how ASPNet works.
UNESCO established the ASPNet network with the aim of encouraging schools worldwide to educate students on issues related to UNESCO's overarching goals and promoting peace and international understanding, as our slogan goes.
Currently, there are 74 schools and tertiary institutions under ASPNet in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and now the program includes 900,000 educational institutions in over 180 countries. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkasiwe Khoza with Fumenkosi Sinisa Manzini.
The European Union ambassador to Eswatini, Dasislava Chumalova, says there is a great need for Eswatini youth to learn to engage one another peacefully and positively for the development of the country. Chumalova was speaking during the Congo Youth Consortium held in Eswatini.
In a bid to allow young people from different non-governmental organizations to engage each other positively, young people had a chance to deliberate on issues that are affecting young people in Eswatini. Speaking during the meeting, the European Union ambassador, Dasislava Chumalovo, says young people have a key role in the development of the country.
Everybody has a role to play in the development in the country, in building a better society, in rebuilding the economy that was badly hit by the pandemic, by COVID, also after the civil protests last year. So everybody has a role to play, and in Eswatini, 73% of the population is young people. So, of course, they have a big role to play. It's their future, and they need to have a say in their future. The purpose is that they start talking, learning to discuss among themselves, joining together to put the issues forward. At the moment, government is looking at ways to implement the youth policy. So there is an action plan in the making. It is a way to join these voices and make sure they're heard in the process of policy making, because these are policies that are going to affect and impact the lives of these young people.
The incoming vice chairperson of the consortium, Sizwe Vilagati, says young people are faced with unemployment.
Tindzaba tekuswelakala kwemsebenti, tindzaba tema-teenage pregnancy, tindzaba tekuthi bantu labasha abekho etigabeni lalakhona bangakhona nabo live labo livakale etindzabeni tekushaya umthetho, etindzabeni tekwenta tinqumo, nasetindzabeni teku-influencer loyo mthetho losuke wendeka.
The mandate of the consortium is to allow young people's voices to be heard and to see young people collaborating to better their communities. For Eswatini TV News, Ndomlangeni with Giani Msibi in Ezulwini.
The chairperson of the religious COVID-19 task team, Bishop Tlatrago, says despite the fact that government has announced that churches can now operate the normal way, people are encouraged to vaccinate against COVID-19. Bishop Tlatrago says people should continue to adhere to the regulations.
Following the announcement by the Prime Minister that local churches may operate at full capacity, provided indoor COVID-19 measures such as wearing of face masks and social distancing of 1 meter are adhered to. The COVID-19 religious task team chairperson Bishop Samson Tlatrago says they are excited, although they continue to appeal to eMaswati to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Tlatrago says adhering to the regulations that are in place should continue since the pandemic is still not yet over.
Hulumende nakathi asende lokho silalele lamhlanje sithi thina sesinqobile noma kungakapheli nya kodwa sesiyabonga lamhla kuthi hulumende sosicegisele ngalokhu besilalela nakathi singalindeli vele besingalindeli sifakele lamlonyeni siyifaka lamhla ke sesinqobile ngalokulalela sijove sihlale sikhweshelane kuze sinqobe sinqotshiswe kulalela.
Of major concern is the fact that the overall national level of vaccination against COVID-19 remains slow at 29%. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni with Vuminkosi Nzinisa in Babane.
The chairperson of cross-border traders, Mabaodi Dlamini, says the removal of PCR tests for people traveling to South Africa will allow business people to try and get back on their feet as they were hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Dlamini was speaking when reacting towards the Prime Minister's speech on PCR testing.
Cross-border traders are pleased with government's decision on removing the PCR test as a requirement for people traveling to the neighboring countries. According to the cross-border trader chairperson Mabaodi Dlamini, this move will save the traders lots of trouble as some were losing money due to runners who buy them items on their behalf because they couldn't afford traveling expenses, including the PCR test.
Sikhuthata ke mntwana wami nekubonga kuhulumende yakwendiya namuhla ngoba abantu bese badimanda ngenkani kusuka ngalo beni bakhulume beSouth Africa angisiwa khona mina nginelipasa kangwane bane nje beva ukuthi uvulile songahamba ngemakhadi bakufosta ngenkani bafuna ukuthi vela bona emagedeni nami ngemsathi ngise ngiya ngemgcibelo balifuna ikhadi ngabaningi abafuna isitifiketi ezalicingweni abaningi ngagcoba ngaje ngabuya ngikhuluma ngento ngibonile ngemgcibelo but ngenhlanhla hulumende wengonyama wabese yamthuma umuntu omzala nongangemhlonisha.
The Prime Minister says entry into Eswatini now requires either proof of full vaccination for COVID-19 or a negative PCR test of not more than 72 hours. This does not apply to children under the age of 12 years. The Prime Minister says it should be noted, however, that a negative PCR test may still be required when traveling to or through other countries. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni with Giani Msibi in Babane.
And now we'll have a look at our financial markets.
Has announced that all restrictions have been lifted for sporting activities that are practiced in an open place. Prime Minister, however, underlined that for the indoor sporting activities, spectators will be required to wear a face mask.
Sports. All restrictions in respect of sports are lifted for outdoor sporting activities. Spectators in indoor sports will be required to wear a face mask.
The announcement by Prime Minister will boost all levels of football in the country to return to business. The sporting fraternity last enjoyed day-to-day activities without concerns back in 2020 prior to the arrival of COVID-19 pandemic. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera with Giani Msibi, Mbabane.
Correctional netball team head coach Vumbunkosi Dlangamandla says the exposure of taking part of international competitions, mostly regional competitions, has immensely assisted in the performance of the team. Correctional netball has now collected over 6 league titles consecutively and have already begun preparations for the 2022 Netball League that begins in April this year.
Correctional Netball Club remains a giant in local netball sport, having collected over 6 league titles consecutively in the past few years. Team coach Vumkosi Dlangamandla says what has been their clear assistance was to get a chance to take part of international competitions, mostly regional competitions, where on many occasions they have returned home with medals and trophies. And whenever they are back home, the mood and the spirit is always high. Jabu Katwane has been with the team for around 12 years. To her, it's all about a family. More than calling it a team, she believes taking care of each other as a group has pushed the team to excel to the level they are at now. Correctional Netball team was part of the ongoing preseason tournament where they once again proved the experience. They'll be hoping to lift yet another silverware when the Netball League resume next month. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Lobamba.
That's all for now. Before we go, let's have a look at our top stories. The government of the Kingdom of Eswatini has eased COVID-19 regulations. The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health says Eswatini has the necessary means to prevent new HIV infections. The EU ambassador to Eswatini says there is a need for Eswatini's youth to engage one another for the positive development of the country. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update. From myself and the team, thank you for your company. Good night.
Welcome to Yes Country, where it's yes to big savings on a roll-up garage door in brown, white or charcoal for just $1,750 each. And a single sectional garage door in brown, white or charcoal for only $3,795 each. Yes, we can. Only at Build It.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds, full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, to feel the rush of life overwhelm you, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. You ask, and we give you the royal experience. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. There are but a few places on earth so special, so unique, and so spectacular, where it becomes the rite of passage for the ambitious travelers, the courageous souls, to all have the one and only royal experience. experience. That day when you look deep into your heart and leap into an ancient world so very different from your own, where magic, beauty, and love are shared forever. Then you will have a new experience. There is just one place on earth where the people make you feel a part of their kingdom, where you just might volunteer to awaken spirits, enrich minds, and work alongside communities to build, motivate, and inspire. This is truly the royal experience. When you dream of a different world, beyond the ordinary, beyond time, discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Watch local TV on the go with the Eswatini TV app for only 20 emalangeni per month. Do the most with Eswatini TV app. Download from Google Play Store or App Store. We're good together.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Uzakusinja intombi yakho yangale eSouth Africa.
Baby, idoma lengaka sekwanje ukuthi kasofuna ngibambe phone like I want to ngikhuluma nabantu. Do you even know who I'm talking to? You know, with me and this guy here, you've got 2 boys at your service 24/7. So feel free. We're gonna plan how to travel this thing over to SA.
This life that we're living. This life that we're living. The world's in turmoil, corruption and abuse. This life that we're living. This life that we're living. Asbambaneni and fight this evil. This life that we're living.
Kena?
Good day, sir.
Good day, Officer Pendele.